So a long time ago, I used to do live streaming on this channel. And the number one question I would get is 한국에 오신 계기 뭐예요? 한국에 왜 오셨어요? Every single time I streamed, I would get this question. And I always just said that I had a Korean friend in university who I came to Korea with. And this wasn't really true, but it's because, to tell the truth, it's kind of a long story and a little bit embarrassing and quite personal. I don't really tell personal stories on this channel because they're personal, but I've always felt a bit bad that I lied about this one. And I always thought one day I would tell it, and I guess that day has finally come. So here we go. So the year was 2011. It was my first year of university, and I was a very diligent student, very hardworking, very handsome. And one of the things I'd always wanted to do was learn a new language. And the number one language I wanted to learn was actually Japanese, because I'd grown up watching anime. So I decided to learn Japanese. And I did so by using a software called Rosetta Stone and using a website called Conversation Exchange. Now, I don't think that website exists anymore, but what it was a place where you could go online and it had chat room. And you could find someone who speaks the language you want to learn, who wants to learn the language you speak, and you could send them a chat request. And so I would go on this website and I'd try and find Japanese people who want to learn English. But every now and then, you would get a chat request from someone who doesn't speak the language you want to learn, but they want to speak English. And if I was bored, I occasionally accept these requests. And I remember one day I got a request from a girl from Korea. Now bear in mind, I'd never even spoken to a Korean person in my life before this. And one of the first questions I asked her was, are you from North or South Korea? That's how ignorant I was. This was 2011, okay? This was a long time ago. I was 18. So I got talking to this South Korean girl, and our personalities just kind of matched. She was very outgoing and competitive and basically just insulted me all the time for like 3 months, which was cool. And we just had good banter between us. And you've got to remember, back in 2011, smartphones were only just becoming a thing. Having internet on your phone was like all new and exciting. We didn't really have like WhatsApp and everything yet. And I didn't have a smartphone. I had like the Nokia N-Gage, if you guys ever had that, I don't know. So if I wanted to talk to her, I had to be at my computer. And so I found myself being at my computer more and more every day just so I could speak to this Korean girl. And I remember I was speaking to her for about 3 months every day, and our chemistry was really good, and I was starting to like her, which was really weird. And then she told me she had a boyfriend. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? So the whole time we've been speaking for 3 months, you've had a boyfriend, you just didn't even mention it. And to be fair, I didn't ask her, but come on. Either way, by this point, I kind of liked her, and I feel like she was telling me like to force my hand a little bit, and it worked, because I basically told her, I want you to break up with your boyfriend, I like you, I want to be your boyfriend. And look, this is weird, because I've never met the girl. In 2011, there were no dating apps. You didn't really meet people online and go date or get in relationships online. It was a very strange thing to be doing. So she said she had this boyfriend, this German boyfriend. And I was like, nah, you gotta ditch that guy real quick. And to my surprise, she said she was going to. And so she comes back online and she tells me she did. And we became boyfriend and girlfriend. I hadn't told any of my friends or family yet because I was embarrassed, but every day I was going online and talking to this girl. And so then she says, why don't you come to Korea? And I was like, I was a student. I didn't have any money to go to Korea. I was like, nah, that's going to be expensive. And she said, I'll pay for half of your tickets if you want to come. Now, by this time, I think I was 19 and she was also 19. We were born in the same year. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, if she's going to pay for half tickets, this will, yeah, hell yeah. But I didn't know anything about South Korea. If I'm completely honest, I thought South Korea was a third world country, and I thought there was a real possibility that I could get kidnapped. Which obviously sounds stupid now, but you got to remember, 2011, online dating is not a thing. I don't know anything about Korea. And in those entire 3 months of talking to her, we'd only video called once, and it wasn't most clear off camera. Webcams weren't very good back then. So I wasn't, 100% sure she was even fully real, or this was real. And my friend's first reaction was obviously laughing at me because I couldn't get a girlfriend in real life and I had to go online, obviously. And next, when I told them that I'm thinking of going to South Korea to meet her, they were all extremely concerned. Don't know if I told my mum or not. I might not have, out of embarrassment. I probably did though. Let's just say there was definitely a concern in the back of my head that I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna get kidnapped or something. Because let's be real, it could have been some gangster group, right, which uses girls to talk to guys online and rope them into coming, and then when they get there, just taking them. There was a real possibility of getting kidnapped, okay, in my mind. But I was 19, I was falling in love, and I had courage. And I decided to go. So I bought the ticket, packed my bags, and I headed for South Korea. Now, she told me that she wanted me to get drunk on the plane. Again, this is also part of my suspicions. Get drunk on the plane so that when I meet her, I think she's prettier than she is. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something along those lines. And being a 19-year-old guy in uni, I was like, okay, cool. So I was smashing whiskeys and beers on this plane, like 12-hour flight. I get there, I'm jet lagged, I'm really drunk, and I'm meeting a girl I've never met before. I'm worried about getting kidnapped. I'm not anymore because I'm quite drunk actually, but I've never seen her before. I don't know what's going to happen. And she's also meeting me with her dad. Her dad was giving her a lift, so there's another thing. Anyway, I come out and I walk out of the area, and there's this girl just like hiding her face. And I come out and I'm trying to talk to her, but she's just like covering her face the entire time. For a good like 10 minutes after this, I shook her dad's hand and I said hello. I didn't speak any Korean. And he was a nice guy, very nice guy, actually. But anyway, she's there covering her face this entire time and just laughing, and I'm laughing. The whole thing's absurd. Like, I've literally just flown halfway around the world to meet a girl I've never met who I started a relationship with online in 2011. That is very weird. And I'm in Korea, this place I've never been to, which until that point I thought was a third world country. So upon arriving in Seoul, I was very surprised at what I'm seeing, and I was just in a completely different world. I didn't know what was going on. I was still a bit drunk too. And her dad took us to the sushi buffet, and I was just there munching sushi. She was there. Finally, she took her hands away from her face and I could see her. But we could barely talk to each other. It was very embarrassing, the whole thing. I mean, it was great, but it was awkward and just surreal. It was surreal. And basically for the next week, I was there with her and we went around Korea. We did quite a few different things. She took me out with her friends. The first night we went out with her friends to this barbecue restaurant and I had 갈매기살. And it was just like the best thing I'd ever eaten. And I was just like, boom. That's where I really fell in love with Korean food, was that night. I still remember it. She lived in a place called Kaebong, which is just outside of Seoul near Bucheon. And there was this little 갈매기살 place that she took me to, and I had soju and And after the 갈매기살 place, we went to a 노래방, which I fell in love with as well. And I've been addicted to 노래방 ever since. And for the next week, we did this and that, and everything was great. It was a great decision to go. We were pretty much in love. And after a week, I went back to England. Now, after I got back to England, everyone was obviously waiting for the news. And I told them all that, yeah, I'm in the relationship. It was great. And I'm now with this Korean girl. They all thought it was super weird. Obviously, I would have thought it was weird if it wasn't me. But that wasn't the end. So in the winter break from university that year, she then came to England and she spent 2 weeks with me at my university and then at my family's house. We had Christmas together and the rest of it. Then on my next summer break from university, which was 3 months, I came back to Korea. And I'd say that was the time that I really fell in love with Korea. I was staying at her mum's place in Kaebong, which was it was a very normal Korean apartment, and it was just me, her, and her mum. And her mum didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak Korean. So whenever she wasn't there, it was really awkward. But her mum was really nice, so yeah, we got on fine, and she cooked for me every day, and like, she was also part of the reason that I fell in love with Korea. She really welcomed me into her home, and it was just, yeah. And then while I was there, 3 months is a long time to only be with people who don't speak your language. So I joined a foreign football team and made really good friends there and had a really fun time. And she took me to the countryside. She took me to her grandma's place. It was in Gyeongju. I stayed in this really like countryside house with her grandma and was just chilling. And the whole thing was like a dream, to be honest. It was the reason I came to Korea, and it was the reason I stayed in Korea, was because of those experiences with her. We did eventually break up, as you know, we were together for 1.5 years and we were both really young. We were like 19, and that's just what happened. She's actually married now. She's doing very well. I'm single and have been for a long time. Well, that's cool. It's all cool. But yeah, we broke up, and then I was still at university. I did my final year. And after I finished university, I basically decided I want to go back to Korea. I had such a great time there over those 3 months that's what made me go back and become an English teacher, because that's what some of the people on the football team were doing. And I stayed there for 10 years after that. But if it wasn't for that sequence of events, I don't know if I ever would have visited Korea. I probably would have learned Japanese, gone to Japan. I don't know. Nobody really knows these things, but I'm glad it did happen the way it happened, and it's what made me fall in love with Korea. So yeah, for those people who asked me when I was streaming all that time ago, what was the reason I come to Korea? Now you know. And yeah, I'll leave it at that for today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Wait, isn't that... What is she? She is. She's people watching. Oh, hi. Maybe she's a writer. Maybe you could people watch too. Say something. Say something. Fucking say something.